Okay, we were, everybody received their email of the recommendations from the Board of Selectmen for the cuts to the town budget that was sent to us today. Without any objections, recognize First Selectman, you want to speak a little bit to the process so everyone understands this? I think you talked with department heads, so forth, what's before us.
So, when the budget fell, we had a meeting with all the department heads, and we talked about the potential cuts. Originally, when I had that conversation, I said, my expectation is we're sort of looking closer to a 1% cut. I just didn't think that we're going to get to where we need to go to in a 0.5% to cut with trying to get to pass the second time. With that, I talked about the need for potentially staff reductions and finding some cost savings without debilitating departments. I recognize that we're not paying our staff appropriately for our town compared to surrounding towns. People do get paid more. We do jeopardize the potential of losing staff to those surrounding towns. So you want to make sure that they're able to work within the departments and they're not being stymied by the process or limitations. So that being said, we had some conversations about the department head meeting. We also met individually with the department heads to talk about some of those cuts that they were potentially bringing forward as well. So through the Board of Selectmen process, the cuts, and I'll go over them individually right now if that's all right with the board. You're going to see where we got to. You can either look at the minutes or look at this. But the first discussion was for the fire department. Fire chief brought to us some reductions in his capital, and we moved forward with a $5,000 cut to capital for them. For the library, they brought forward some cuts, which would impact the library in a reduction of hours on Sunday and some other areas, stipends for staff. For the Public Works Department, there was a discussion of 3 options on the table, or more or less 2 options on the table. One would be reducing our infrastructure, and my concern is when we start hitting infrastructure, we're not doing what we need to do to maintain our roads, our sidewalks, our buildings, etc. And things start to deteriorate over time, just like your own home. When you don't maintain it, things start to fall apart. So the Board of Selectmen did make a $50,000 cut to infrastructure. The other option on the table, which they chose not to do, was potential of cutting 1 staff person. That 1 staff person is the part of a 25% of the team of Public Works that deals with maintenance of fields. That would result in a reduction of the use of those fields across the board. You're no longer going to have any of the out-of-season sports. A lot of the teams that come in and pay for our fields will no longer be able to use them. The other thing that would impact it is our garbage cans along the street. This one individual is in the team that picks up refuse in town. That goes along to the garbage cans. On Main Street, this is the garbage at the town beach, so it would then defer to take in, carry out your garbage. We all know what that results in. So the Board of Selectmen felt that it was prudent not to do that because of the long-term impacts to our town. Went to the next department, which was the building department. That is a real cost of savings of $600. The code books can be purchased in this fiscal year because they were just updated. We were waiting to see whether or not that would take place, so that is a real cost. The assessors was able to reduce the max cost by $3,000. That is something that only happened fairly recently. We were able to determine that was a savings based on the scanning project that is taking place. The police department, we reduced their overtime to $25,000. That is something that will come to fruition when we talk about a new police contract. Communications, a elimination of 2 part-time positions in communications. We did not cut the overtime because when you cut those 2 positions, you're going to increase your overtime. So there hopefully will be some savings, because the overtime was around 10,000. Those positions were 18,200. Perhaps we'll have a savings of 8,000 at the end of the day. Animal control, we eliminated the part-time position there. Potentially you're going to have an impact where you have patrolmen being called out to deal with animal control issues and being taken away from other possibly higher priority issues, which would have to be reallocated, obviously, because they're higher priority. But WPCC, it was a reduction of the legal budget, 5,000, and the reduction of the state water testing, which is the lagoons that we're working on. So hopefully that will result in eventually a closure of those lagoons for a total reduction of 6,600. Parks and Recreation, there was a reduction in overtime of 300. And the pump out boat, which is under general government other, a $7,000 reduction in that. What we did not do is we not go to the different departments and ask for, I feel as though they get to be point of petty line items, $100 here, $100 there. At the end of the day, these departments need to function. If they do not use that $100 line item, it goes back into the general budget. But at some point, we're stymieing the process. You know, we get to the point where departments are going to have to come back to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance for line item transfers from this area to cover these small items that they were able to deal with. So I just didn't think, you know, talking with them individually did not make sense to reduce those smaller line items. Does anybody have questions?
You had said that for the public works that you were reducing the infrastructure 50,000, but you had thought about cutting one staff person, and I know the downside to that. What would be the cost savings so to cut the staff person? Is it equivalent to the 50,000 or?
Yeah. So reduction in staff person is the savings of 53,000, close to it.
Well, so it's almost the same.
But then, you know, we also get revenue through the fields. People
Right.
rent out the fields.
No, I just wanted to know what the cost value, and then I had a second question. If, because it doesn't look like there's any real staff reductions. I mean, you're not filling positions, or I guess, like the animal control, it's just they're not being filled, but did you eliminate any positions or recommend eliminating positions that aren't incorporated here?
So we eliminated, they were not filled yet. The animal control, as you pointed out, and there's 2 communications positions that were not filled on, so we eliminated those 2. But there was a conversation in a number of positions within that. So we were looking at either positions that were the most recent filled positions and going back to previous fiscal years, or trying to make it equitable in terms of departments. Some departments have part-time staff to cover, to make sure that we have coverage for when staff is out at lunch or on holidays, etc., and try to equalize it within town hall. The first item that was brought up, we talked about the reduction in the assessor's office of 1 person in there. There was also a discussion from WPCC, and this wasn't made at the Board of Selectmen, that was a discussion with all the department heads, because that was one of the last positions filled. I believe it was part-time, that was made full-time. So that would have been a reduction of a full-time person to part-time, the same as in the assessor's office. We did have a conversation about reducing the technology. We have 1 technology staff that's full-time, that we would reduce that to part-time, and that would go along potentially. We're in conversations with the school and doing a shared service there. I'm not sure that we're really ready to do that. We're working on a mutual aid agreement, or not mutual aid, a mutual agreement with the school, and we need to have that firmed up. I'd like the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to agree to that, so that whatever is solidified with the Board of Ed and schools is something that has a legacy and lives on through the political turmoil, because hopefully there will be a true cost of savings. So like I said, I'm not sure that we're ready to make that move. The other area I was looking at potentially was there's a clerk position for the Human Services Department. My only concern is that we're filling the Human Services Director position fairly soon, and that person doesn't have the opportunity to speak to you, so, and defend that person, or the need for that person, so I don't really think it's fair to cut that at the moment until you have that person to really say whether or not the person is of value to them. Certainly that person has been in employment for a very long period of time and had a value to the department currently. So those were the only areas that we talked about, some of them within the Board of Selectmen meetings, some of them talked about within the department head meetings. So any other questions?
I have a question. The approximate $300,000 plus in new healthcare costs kind of offset this. It's a combination of both the Board of Education and the town. How is that going to be included in this new budget that we are supposed to approve? That's what our agenda said, that we're to meet and approve. So, which I found offensive.
What we'll do.
If the outcome is predetermined, why?
The outcome isn't determined.
But may I ask about
the
the $300,000?
I'm sorry.
May I ask about the $300,000 in additional health care costs?
I don't know that that's exactly the figure. I think you guys have a specific agenda to deal with the cuts that you asked for, which were the 0.5% cuts from the town side.
Yes, but I need to know if that number is in our,
The number is not, I think it was mentioned at the last meeting, which obviously you weren't here, but there's cost savings that have been negotiated that bring us the savings, at least on the town side, it's almost a wash. So the expense, the increases are going to be, the Board of Education has to deal with them. On the town side, we've been able through negotiations that are not fully complete, but you can take it to the bank, it's going to get done, that would offset the cost of those healthcare benefits.
I think it is, respectfully, to understand a budget, we have to know what our expenses are and what our incomes will be. I also have an additional question, which is, have we gotten the appraisal for the old Oregon school? Is that on the horizon that we'll be able to sell that for a decent amount of money? It makes me feel better about all this spending.
So I would defer to your finance director regarding the ECF, or not the ECS, the LEARN, we'll just call it LEARN, another acronym for it, costs for insurance. Right now I'm in negotiations with a number of developers for the site, and when I have something to bring to the boards, I will bring it. Right now there's nothing that is really privy to the boards until I have something very concrete that I want to present to them, something more solidified in terms of what they're going to move forward on.
Wouldn't it be comforting to the taxpayers to know that that site is worth X as is, or we have to tear down the building, or we're going to have expenses for remediation?
Well,
they paid for the appraisal.
All right, we're not here,
We are here. We are here.
We're here to put motions on the floor and debate them, okay?
I'm happy to
I'm all open for the debate, but the thing is, the Morgan School is worth $8 million if you want to listen to somebody, okay? So when we sell it for $8 million, we'll have $8 million coming in. If you rip down the school, I guess you can take out the cost. Right now, there's no way to quantify what it's worth until somebody buys it. Do you know what your house sold before you sell it?
Yes, you have an appraisal.
You have an appraisal. Do you know until you get the money what you got?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Well, we did.
That's my business.
Go on.
I do know
Okay,
that.
listen, until you sell a house, you ain't got a dime.
Calm
Come
down.
on. Answer the question on the healthcare. And I'm gonna move for a motion, because then you can have all the debates. And I'm gonna look with no objections here. We have recommendations from the Board of Selectmen. And what I'm looking for is to have a motion to accept their cuts, and anyone can amend, change, debate, do whatever, what you want with it. You can stay here all night and do that. But I want a motion on the floor before we go down rabbit holes. Dawn, you want to answer a question on healthcare?
I believe your question was what's going to happen with this additional healthcare cost that there's potential out there?
340,000 is what.
No,
is in the
so
minutes.
it's how all the time.
How?
It's
60,000.
It's 60 on the town and approximately 120 on the Board of Education.
How much?
120.
Substantial reduction from last week.
Well, there wasn't an actual number that we could have given you last week when you had asked.
The other thing was the difference between the estimated, I guess it was 4%
I like the
increases
number,
versus
don't get me
6%.
wrong, I like what I hear.
But the number you heard last week was the increase. And then what you have is the increase versus what we budgeted. So the net number is 200. Correct?
Thank you.
I
Okay.
make a motion to accept the $132,700 budget reductions recommended by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second? Okay, now we're in discussion.
Well, we continue to spend more than we take in,
We-
and I don't even know the point of this. It's,
Well, let me
it's
explain something.
too naive.
Let me explain. We're making a motion here.
We're having a discussion, right, with motion.
No, there's a motion, and we're having a discussion on the motion.
Yes.
It does not preclude anyone from making any other motion. Do you want to make a motion to cut $1 million, cut $1 million, you know? You can make other motions. This is one motion. We act on this motion. Whatever changes, amendments, whatever you want, fine. If you want to make another motion, I'll entertain it. Under discussion.
Aren't you going to cut me off?
No, go ahead, under discussion. I just want to
I
explain.
have expected.
Go on the floor.
I think this is a complete waste of the taxpayers' time and our time,
Can you refer yourself to the motion?
because it's not enough.
Speak about specifics about the budget. Do you have any amendments, additions? What do you want to do here? Because I don't want to hear about just hyperbole about, this and that, who sold the house.
In
What
that
do you
case,
want to
sir,
change?
if my
What do
voice
you
is
want-
hyperbole,
Yeah.
I'm not voting for this anymore. It's a joke. This is a complete waste of my time. And the taxpayers' time. Go ahead, vote. 4-2. Go ahead.
Any discussion?
Well, I'm dismayed that we're taking any money out of the central services like the fire department, the police department, people that provide health and safety features to this town. There are other areas where there is money available and we're not touching it because they seem to be sacrosanct, such as the library, which is sitting on $1.3 million in cash. And we're asking them to give back $7,500. I find it absurd on the face of it.
It's been brought to my attention that the money that they're sitting on is restricted. They're outside of our budget.
Restricted by the Board of Trustees, which 5 years ago recognized that we were going to hit them hard, and the Board of Trustees moved, I forget the exact number, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 to a restricted account so that we couldn't touch it. Now they can very easily move it back to cash because they've never used it since then. So you want to play games with numbers, I can play with you. I don't know why we're taking $5,000 from the fire department, $25,000 from the police department. I mean, these are essential services to the people of the town of Clinton, and the managers of those departments initially thought these were very important things. I don't know why we go to infrastructure constantly from the Department of Public Works. The money comes out of the town anyhow because it winds up being bonded. So this, as Ona says, has become a joke. And I certainly will not support it.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay.
3-2, motion's have it. So any other motions? You want to make some motions?
Make a motion. Make a motion. Bad with the motion.
On my
Democratic
motion,
town
to pump
meeting.
that vote back in.
Well, we already voted to cut it.
You said I could make another motion.
Yes, you can.
Well, you should have amended the motion.
She's making a motion. You said she could, right?
I mean, I can make a motion.
Yeah, we heard it.
What is the motion? I didn't hear it.
Motion to put the pump out back in after we just voted to take it out.
I would go for the pump back. Yeah, I would have $7,000.
Should have put it on amended, but I don't know.
Owner wants the pump out. We don't want those little things floating in the...
Or heading down
Jane's
to
little
the town.
hands. Jane's little answer.
The, I explained the pump out vote more than once, but the pump out vote is being funded 75% by the state. They take the money, they're mandated to pump the boats out. Any lack of contribution to someone, I don't know why we ever made the contribution in the first place, but when we're talking about why are we taking, you want to make a motion to put it back in the fire department? I don't know, I mean, you take $7,000 out of there, put something back in the fire department. I'll say what I think. I think that, you can turn around and think what you want. I haven't heard one motion. I hear Republicans talk a lot to me, okay? What's your motion for your cuts? Give me your cuts. All you're doing is adding back. You tell me what you want to add back. What do you want to cut?
I think Daria had the right idea that there's hours in town hall that could be cut. If we have to hire part-time people to cover lunch, maybe lunch at the house, town hall should be closed noon to 1. Maybe, this is desperate times. All we're doing is, we're gonna be bonding again?
Well, let's make some motions to get rid of some full-timers and have some part-timers then. Let's talk about that. You want to make a motion?
No, I'm not making a motion. I feel that
Well, I'm looking for a motion.
She has
That's what you had a motion.
All I hear is everybody says it's an outrage, but I haven't heard one cut come from you guys. Give me a cut.
John,
Make a motion.
You do know that democracy is
I understand
back and
democracy.
forth.
Make
It's
a motion
not
to
a bully yelling at
I
everyone.
have seconded Jane's motion.
To add $7,000 back in.
This is so democratic.
To add 7,000. So far, I haven't heard one cut, not one cut. So the second motion, okay? So motion made second to send $7,000 back to a multimillionaire who appealed his taxes,
all right,
okay?
I don't think you need to bring personalities or.
It's not personalities.
Yes, it is.
It's the truth.
You say that every time.
It's the truth.
It's a public service that
It's
they
not a
are
public
giving us.
service.
It is too.
Okay, motion been made second, discussion.
I think it's necessary.
Discussion. Any other
In use during the summertime.
discussion?
So if the 7,000 is taken out, we're not having any pump going on. No, that's ridiculous.
No, you have a pump out, he has to have a pump out.
So what do we lose?
By the way, not only we have a pump out boat, we have a pump out station.
What do we lose with 7,000?
You don't get that there are people that probably their boat, so they don't go to the pump out station. But, I really don't want to talk about it anymore.
Remember, the motion made second on the floor.
No motion.
There's a motion.
What are we losing with the 7,000?
Then let's vote, I call the vote.
All in favor of the motion to oppose? Motion failed. Any other motions? You want to cut? I'm looking for cuts.
I make a
I'm not looking for additional cuts.
motion that the library be increased from $7,500 to $75,000.
Second?
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded to decrease. Do we have to have a description of where it's cut or just the 75,000?
Just no line item.
Okay, motion made and seconded to cut an additional 70,000, right?
No,
75,000, to a total of 80.
no, a total of $75,000.
Right.
67,500.
So it's been moved to second.
Additional 67.
Moved to second. Discussion.
I had my discussion. I said they're sitting on a huge amount of cash that the town isn't sitting on.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion failed. Any other motions?
Motion to adjourn.
I won't accept that at this point.
I heard from the school.
The school. We got on school. We gotta do the other, we gotta, a couple more items we have to do.
No, we're going to hear the numbers from,
We're
Well-
getting the numbers now?
I don't know if anybody wants to make a motion, but I'll speak my piece. We talk about cuts, but there was a proposal that was made this morning and it failed to turn around and to reduce a full-time to a part-time. There's probably about at least 3 other positions that could fit that bill within our budget. That's real dollars, real cuts. The voters are looking for something, they want to see, they see $132,000 of cuts, but they don't see where, they don't really believe there's any pain.
You know why they feel that way? Is the town growing? Is the Board of Education having more students? No, they're down 2.4% this coming year for students. So they don't see why we're increasing these budgets, and our grant list is flat, you know that.
So there's a
We haven't
proposal.
had grant list growing in years.
So is there a proposal to do anything about personnel on the salary lines? Anybody want to do anything?
Christine went to the department heads and took a guide.
Do you want to make a motion? But we're the same, they're not the same, we're the first
Stop
grade.
bullying me. I
I'm
don't
not
like
bullying
it.
you, I'm just
Yes,
repeating-
you are.
I'm
And
just-
I
I'm
find it
repeating-
offensive at a
I'm
public
only
hearing for you to
repeating-
raise your voice,
I'm only
point to me,
repeating, I'm only
and yell at
repeating
me.
what you said. That you're
I have
here,
nothing more to say,
Well-
thank you.
so you have no motions for cuts?
No, sir, I do not.
You like motions? So. Some people have people working for the town, too. One of the part-time jobs is your husband, so that could be
There's
right there.
plenty of people in this room that work for the town.
That was obnoxious in the defense of.
Whatever, it's the truth.
The Democrats love it, I'm gonna attack. Stop.
Hey, I'm looking at,
Stop it.
I'm
Isn't
looking
it
for cuts.
interesting that in the Department of Public Works,
I'm
we're
looking for
cutting
cuts.
playing fields for kids? That's the thing that comes up.
By the way,
Not anything else, playing fields.
She's shaking her head.
a playing field,
Oh, yeah, that's
if
the
you
important
cut,
thing.
if you,
And I'm sure that schools will be cutting uniforms and sports.
we're not dealing with a school budget, I can't deal with a school budget.
You are going
Yes,
to.
we do have to,
You have
Well,
to.
because you
We're
have
gonna
to
vote,
send it to public
well, we
hearing.
can't cut the uniforms.
You have to make
We
a
have no
reduction.
choice of what they cut. But I can tell you that that's the kind of stuff they're gonna cut. Why? Because it gets everybody all flustered. Just like cutting the field.
Well, we'll hear what Mary Ann is going to recommend, if we ever get to it.
But we have no say in where they put those cuts, none.
You know, but you gotta say on the cuts of the town budget.
We're talking about Board of Education.
Well, not the
They
Board
can
of
cut where they want. Teachers, whatever.
I still said that, when you look at the, you got 2 budgets gonna get voted on. In the town budget, what we've done here is, like I said, I don't think the $50,000 is being, you're postponing things that need to be done.
I can't
And
believe
then-
you brought up my husband. That's
What do you-
pretty, that is pretty funny.
He works for the town.
Okay, so do all these
Right,
people.
right.
But my husband,
Right.
not anybody else's.
All right, can we get to the
Carol works for the town.
next step?
You're-
A lot of people work for the town.
How do we get to that?
We have to determine.
Yeah, look,
A lot of things move along, if we can move along, we move along.
How do we get there? Do we call the Board of Education come up now?
You mean
So
the
we
relevant, you can't.
Well,
The
we have-
chairman is running this.
so we voted, so.
I know, I'm with you.
So our town budgets are done, there's no other motions, right? So we have the 132.7 cut.
To send a public hearing,
Right.
yes.
And then Mary Ann, you want to speak on the Board of Education?
Well, I'm a little puzzled. At this point, the Board of Finance last week voted to do a 0.5% reduction, which is $179,267. The board then convenes and we make those cuts. What's happened, the notice shows the further reduction on it, and we don't itemize those cuts to the board at this point. So we are ready, and we'll be meeting tomorrow night in a subcommittee with our Budget and Finance group, and that's a public meeting. It's been posted, and we'll be discussing the cuts at that point. We did go in on the first cut of $300,000, and we re-itemized our budget, so you can see that online. We have our meeting tomorrow night to discuss where those cuts will come from. I know I've listened to comment tonight that we attack the things that will cause issue, and I just want to say that, the Board of Ed understands the message from the taxpayers as well as the difficulty that the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance face. We are doing everything to look at all of our resources to minimize the impact on students, and we always do that, and we will continue to. So we are in the process, but that reduction is the reduction that we have at hand. So if there are any alterations to that, we intend to look at operating and not touch capital at this point. And I can answer other questions, but I have not met with my Board of Ed. We won't until tomorrow night.
So we are going to approve a motion that the Board of Education will cut by $179,000.
That's where it stands right now, to my understanding, and that's the process, and that's what the annual notice will show, an additional 179.
That's a recommendation.
If I need more detail, I can.
That's a recommendation we made.
Right, and I will make the motion that we accept the Board of Education's assurance that they are going to cut their budget by $179,000, whatever that number is.
I mean, that's the way we did the 300, and that was my understanding from Dawn that that's what we needed to do.
I second Doug's motion.
And you said the recommend.
The public hearing.
Public hearing.
I said the public hearing, yes.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye? Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention. One opposed.
I would, at the end, I would like to know where the $60,000 on the town side of insurance increases and 100 and some odd thousand from the Board of Education side is going to be reflected in the budget, if at all.
Dawn?
It's not at this time.
Well, this time, when might it?
If it actually comes to fruition that there is an actual need to cover that, right now there's negotiations with union contracts that could cover the amount on the town side. There's additional numbers being added to the consortium, which would distribute the expense a little bit more. So the number is constantly changing as those progress. If there's a need to cover it, we'll be back for you with a proposal for a reserve to cover that. We're going to see where we stand at the end of this year as to how much should be contributing into fund balance and undesignated fund balance. Should the undesignated fund balance have an amount that we can put aside as a reserve for insurance purpose only, and that is an option we'll be coming back before you with.
Brilliant
And
idea.
how far to the future is that going to occur?
Probably another few months. We need to know where we stand at the end of the.
So if the Board of Finance says you will come to us in 3 months with a complete report on these insurance situations, you can do that.
We'll have a complete report where it stands at that time, yes.
I'm not happy.
Well, you
You were when
can't.
you came in.
You can't.
I wasn't happy when it came, right?
Any other questions?
You're probably not happy.
I'm never happy. Don't be me.
I'd like to get a motion trying to get manage and control of legal funds. We made some cuts in here, and what I'd like to have is a motion to consolidate the legal, into general government, legal other fund, there's a line. So make a motion,
I'll make a motion to move all legal budgets to the general government.
hopefully we can manage it better. Second?
We're not just moving money, we're just allocating where we.
We're not cutting it,
Just
we're
putting
just
it
putting it
in
in.
legal budgets and.
So you want to say anything?
Discussion.
Are all legal budgets being put under the aegis of,
Of the
Town
government legal other.
Yes.
In the government legal other.
all,
Yes.
no matter who's going to spend it, no matter what agency it is?
Right.
How is that transparent?
That's the way it used to be.
Exactly.
Well, it used to be we had one finance director for the town and the Board of Education. That doesn't mean anything. What is the advantage here? Why, what is the
The
reason?
advantage is
non-employee, you don't have anybody watching over the money. You have the monies that are being decided by land use, by
Planning and zoning.
Right, right. And what you're trying to do is just get a better handle. I don't know if I think you can go out to bid probably too at some point. So going out to bid and see if we can do better on our legal rather than be all carved up in different places. Would you like to address it, Christie?
That's,
Well,
it's an
okay.
opportunity to get a better assessment of what we're spending for legal and which firms we're using. And then going out to bid, it gives us an opportunity to consolidate potentially some of the uses.
Thank you, that's clear.
Any other questions?
I would have no objection, as long as we get a report of who we're using and what we're spending on,
Yes,
and
because
why. I mean,
the
if you-
transparency of it you need.
Right, we need some
Is one department
transparency.
being sued all the time, or is another department hiring lawyers every time somebody asks them a question?
Because we don't know what's going on in the legal world. We don't know what opinions of counsel are being requested, what we're getting, but,
So if it's transparency, it's valuable.
Christine?
You can look at all your boards and commissions, they all have
They do, yeah.
their summary of what their monthly legal fees are. So it does exist right now. You have the opportunity to review it with your finance director, so. This just gives us a better opportunity to consolidate and potentially when we go out to bid, have a better assessment of the fees that are being expended.
Well, because are they using all different law firms? Because there are conflicts, so that might also be an advantage to have everything in one, because the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and firms have to run conflict checks all the time.
Right, it's kind of like regionalization within our town.
Any further comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. I'd like to get a motion to increase the revenue by $150,000 in the appropriated surplus revenue line, making it a total of $300,000. We have the revenue to the town is increased from the state by $300,000, looking for $150 to $300,000 to go in. Correct? Did I state that correctly? So the motion is correct, if somebody makes that motion?
Can you restate that, please?
The motion would be to increase, right now, under your revenues, we have 150,000 for unappropriated surplus that is reducing your overall tax levy that is required to cover expenses. Due to the increase over budget of the ECS and state funding that has come in, there's not a lot of additional revenue, but another 150 on that line will help reduce the tax levy that you would pass through the taxpayers with. So increasing that to 300 from 150 is, was discussed.
You said it would have a tax benefit?
It would have a tax benefit.
Okay. I make a motion to move 150 from the surplus to,
It was from the revenue, the increased revenue we received.
I don't know, hopefully
Just-
fund.
Just increase the appropriated surplus from 150 to 300.
So I make a motion to increase the appropriated surplus from 150 to 300.
I'll second that.
We're moving to second discussion.
It's an artifice. The 150 is an artifice, the 300,000 is an artifice. You're taking money out of surplus and making it a revenue item. It's not revenue. You're just taking taxpayer money from one side and saying, let's expense your taxpayer money.
Are we taking it out of surplus?
It would be coming out of surplus.
Oh, well, we're already below what the auditors have told us should be our rainy day fund.
What we
That figure is
want to accomplish is to get to 15%, which the state has just put in a new law that if you're at 15% of what we have, our rainy day fund, cannot be used or even considered by arbitrators in negotiations for, say, the teachers' union. So we want to expand that to 15%, not reduce it in any manner, shape, or form.
To understand what that means, it means that they're protecting the 15% surplus from an arbitrator's decision.
Right.
They're not telling them you have to have 15%. Kristen,
That's true.
Our auditors have told us for the past
not
10 years.
15%.
Our auditors have told us minimum is 10.
Well, that's
And they
10, not
recommend
15.
12, yes, okay, but we're teetering below 10 at this moment.
Are we, because we're not
We're
right
at 12.
We're at
We are
12.
12.
We're at 12.
About
With
12.
transfer of
That's
money,
it.
or that's,
With, no.
We had increased revenue coming in.
Isn't that nice?
Yes. Kristen.
So we have a
You can
policy,
recognize her? Why?
Because
Why?
I chose.
You can't choose.
we
Is
have,
there any
You just
objection?
choose to recognize people in the audience.
You want to vote? I'll get a vote. I can recognize, if there's no objection or.
There is an objection. Hi,
Okay.
hi,
Do I have a
I'm
motion?
objecting.
Can I have a motion to recognize the first selectman for clarity on the issue?
I make a motion.
Second? All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Christine?
so we have a policy to have a 12% balance. We just recently went out and had our bonding. We've now raised our sorry, no words today. We have now raised to AA, where are we, AA plus, I'm sorry, Dawn, I can't even think at this point. So when we had that conversation with the S&P, they indicated that they're looking for 10%, not 12%, 10%. Moody's would like to see 12 to 15%. Moody's is not really looking objectively of how small municipalities work, and so therefore S&P moves more fluidly, and we're going to get better bond rates because of it. So 12% is the policy we have as a town, and that is where we are right now.
10 is our.
Policy of
Sorry,
the,
I'm
policy
sorry.
of the Board of Education,
Sorry.
the Board of Finance is 10%.
Sorry, excuse me, 10%, sorry.
Right.
12
So-
is where we are.
S&P looks for 10 to 12%. Moody's looks for 12 to 15%. We are using S&P right now.
Well, our number is 10, we're at 12. We're still on the motion, right? So further discussion on the motion.
I'm finished discussing.
150 will keep us at 12, or drop us below 12.
Well, the 150 won't come into play until next year, so it depends on how the fiscal year ends.
So it's basically not going to affect the percentage you said. We're still at 12,
You're currently at 12.
at 12. And the 150 is, so it's not going to affect it until next year.
We have never gone to 300. 150's been the max, and the Board of Finance years ago was very split on whether or not we should even go to 150. We tried to be very conservative, not to create revenues, all right, that didn't exist. That's what you do.
You also get to a point where you're overtaxing if you're holding too big surpluses. I mean, there could be that.
I'm not holding too big a surplus.
Well,
But what do
you're
you
at
mean they don't
12%.
exist? That she's saying that.
You're creating, it's an artifice. You're taking from the asset side and putting it into revenues.
But it does exist, though.
No, it doesn't. It's a creation. You're creating a revenue stream that now does not exist. And you're creating it by taking it out of our assets, our undesignated fund balance,
Which are higher
to put
than,
it on the revenue side.
which are higher than what our board.
They're not
policy
higher,
is.
they're right at 12%. That's where we
No,
want to be.
You said our board policy was
We
10.
want to get to 15%.
You said your board policy, you said it was 10.
The auditors
The
for
board
10
policy is
years
10%.
have recommended that. If you look at the auditors' reports for the past 10 years, they know all our figures.
Yeah, best practices in the industry
Look
is
under the
12%. 15 is what everybody is shooting to create. If you want your bond rating to move higher, or to keep what you've got, because we're going out with lots of bonds next year,
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, because I'm going to get 3 or 4 times. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
I have to amend this motion because I did not understand it clearly when I seconded it. I will not second this motion.
Okay, or you're withdrawing your second.
I'm withdrawing my second.
Do I have a second on the motion? That was,
I'll second.
okay. So I don't think we need any more discussion, because we had a discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Same.
Motion carried. Dawn, we have any other business? Moved by agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that unless our chairman can be civil and act with decorum, he should be removed from office, and our vice chairman should run meetings. This is very uncivil, and it is a disgrace to the town of Clinton.
I sit here meeting after meeting and listen to cut, and then all I hear is about add back in. So far, overtime, add it back in. Bump, add it back in. All things
You're
add back
firing
in.
my husband, isn't that how you're going to
Well,
say
look, I don't know how much to say to you. You have a number on it?
it? Not much.
Okay, hearing no other business, a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, vote on my motion.